Hello.
Hello,
Oh, hi, Justin.
how are you?
Actually,
Good. You're not driving this week?
the meeting
No,
is
not this week, thank goodness.
running.
You're on location?
I'll go into it and make sure everyone's okay.
Yes.
It looks like everyone is getting into it. Okay, thanks. Bye. Hello.
Hello.
Um, okay. I'm sorry. I thought this meeting started at 7:30.
Connie, you were muted.
I said I could go take a nap for another 25 minutes.
Sorry.
Believe me, I need it. Participants. Okay, let's see who's here. We have Justin, Sabrina, Christine, Jody, Molly.
Vincent is Carolyn, I believe.
Oh, Carolyn is Vincent. Yeah, I don't see Ron.
Right.
Sam Sesti said that he was going to be absent.
Oh,
Ron is here.
Ron here? Okay, I see him now. Okay, so we can get started with everyone here except for Sam Sesti. Great. Let me look at my agenda. Let's just start out with something easy. The minutes from the March 4th meeting. Has everybody had a chance to look over those?
Yes.
Can we get a motion to approve them, and then Amy can post them on the website?
I'll make the motion.
Second, can anybody second that?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Jody. And you did a great job on the minutes. All in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, we have approved minutes. I don't know if everybody has seen it, but Amy did put up a special section on the school district's website just for the tax commission. Looks really nice. As we send her information, she'll just keep posting it there. And I believe what they have there right now is where she had posted the minutes from our last meeting, but I think she took them down waiting for us to approve them. So they'll be up. And I think that PowerPoint that Dan put together initially just to give us information on what's going on, you know, with the commission, what our task and our focus is, that may be up there as a supporting document as well. I did get some communication from the school board finance committee, and Mike Ryakovic, who's the president of the school board. They had not anticipated having a solicitor present at every single meeting of the tax commission. And they really asked that unless we absolutely needed a solicitor, that we conduct our meetings without them, and we can consult them between meetings like we have been doing via email on any questions that need us to solicitor's input. I told him I'd run it past all of you guys. You'll notice the solicitors are not here tonight, though I do have a cell phone number for Amy She's standing by. If we get into some horrible problem, she can jump on the Zoom meeting within minutes. So how does everybody feel about not having the solicitors be physically present at each meeting?
If they're not present at each meeting, how many meetings are they going to be present at, and what's that schedule look like? Are we going to have a schedule for when they're present?
I think the only time that we would actually need them present, I mean, absolutely no question about it, the public hearing, potentially the meeting right prior to the public hearing in order to get us up to date on what we have to do at the hearing. But hopefully, I think they've answered a whole lot of questions. If we have more, we can always email them. But it's up to you guys.
I would say for sure having them on call, just because, you know, as I've started to familiarize myself with this entire topic, that it is part of the Tax Relief Act, which seems like really complicated law with a lot of nuances. And I know they kind of talked about how the scope is narrow, but even the parameters of how narrow it is, it seems like we could use guidance and insight about all of the kind of technicalities of what we're looking at. And even, for instance, you know, all the time little things come up for me. So I would like them to be kind of on call just to walk us through something that is, you know, by definition legal.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, if we need them, we can reach out to them. Otherwise, it would pretty dramatically increase the school district's costs for the study if we had them at every meeting. So I don't feel, you know, I really like Tony Giulio. I don't feel bad if he doesn't, you know, if he's not here or somebody from his office. I think we have other ways of reaching out to them when we need them. Okay. What I'd like to do is just sort of the way this is working in my brain, and you guys can weigh in is a framework for moving forward. Have a very linear thought process, and it helps me if there is a natural progression of data and information, and then we reach a conclusion at the end. In anticipation of this public hearing, what I'd like to start doing as we move along, and I'll run this past all you guys, is something that we did when I practiced law, which was to present findings of fact initially. Anything that is an indisputable fact, what Northgate's millage rate is, what the homestead exemption is, like those types of things. I'm going to start assembling those into a document. Once we get the findings of fact and we think that we're covered on that, then I would like to see us go into what considerations we want to make part of this study. And that could be the impact it has on different groups of property owners, different age groups, a lot of things. Whatever anybody wants to throw in there, we can consider that, as long as it is within that, like Molly said, the parameters of our very, very narrow focus. And then finally, hopefully we'll be able to agree on a conclusion that we can recommend to the school board on how to proceed after here. Because you understand, I want everybody to understand, we have absolutely no authority whatsoever to make this real. All we can do is make a recommendation to the school board about whether they should put it on the ballot and what it might look like for the school district. That's all we do. We are powerless. So if that works for everybody, and like I said, I'll keep running the findings of fact past you as we progress, and everybody, if somebody thinks that's not a fact, it's an opinion or whatever, then we can alter it within the commission. I just don't want us to wait until April 20th and then be saying, hold it, we got to have something to show these residents in a couple of days. And anybody, I don't know if there's anybody on the commission who really has fun putting together neat little presentations and graphs and those types of things. But if anybody can do that, has that talent and enjoys it, please let me know, because it's not something I necessarily want to do. I can see there's gonna be a lot of volunteers. I'm calling on you guys, I really am. Okay, Molly, I saw the solicitor responded to your earlier email. For the purposes of what you had asked, do you believe that he answered those questions to your satisfaction, or?
Yeah, for now, I think as they come up, there could be more discussion, certainly. And I think that that I might have a different perspective on even what is considered a finding of fact, because I don't particularly see like a human impact situation as something separate from numbers necessarily. I think it might be interesting to look at numbers alongside the potential impact or the way these numbers would inform different issues or impact different different people. So
Sure.
so I don't think I can say like, no, my questions are over in terms of that. I just want to see kind of what will come up as we move forward, because for me it's very difficult to separate a kind of like just purely mathematical issue, which I don't think this is, from all of the various people who will be impacted by the math or paying the math.
Absolutely, agree 100%. We just don't know what the impact is until we get the facts. So the one thing I would like to say though, number one, let's really limit our emails in terms of substantive discussion, because we really want all of this to be very open and available to the public. So I don't want them, sitting in a meeting here and saying, okay, what are they talking about? What email? What was in that? We're probably going to have to make those things public, but it would be a big help if you want to ask questions of Chris Ursu or the solicitor via email or me or whoever, that's fine. I think any substantive discussion or opinions on those things, let's save it for the meeting, just so that we have the public record. The other thing would be is that we are charged with being as independent as possible from the Northgate School Board and the administration. So limit your emails to members of the commission, along with the Chris Ursu and the solicitor. Let's leave the other school board members out of it. They're really not supposed to be involved. So I appreciate Dan giving his citations for that information. Okay, great. Now, does anybody, Chris gave us a whole bunch of new data to run through our brains. Does anybody have anything else they want to get to before that, before we start diving into that?
Not really. The only thing I'll say, Connie, is, I mean, it's not beautiful, but I've pulled, I've used some of that data just to give, it's really just, if anybody wants to just be walked through how the current homestead exemption affects a typical homeowner, homesteader, and then what the additional one would do. It's just a walkthrough of what that looks like, so we know what kind of dollars we're talking about. I mean, It's factual. It's factual. It's just it's what happens when you exempt another $35,000. And then if you
Exactly.
increase the earned income tax, what does that do to that same taxpayer? But you saw the questions. I had a few questions about what is the median family income.
Right.
And I guess the source of that, I guess, Chris, was the, you had sent the, a spreadsheet of proposed education funding from Governor Wolf. And that was one of the fields in there. So,
Okay.
but I'll just throw that out. Maybe we're not ready for that yet, but I just, if you were going to start doing that, I can share with you what I've already done.
Would that help everybody to visualize that? I'm kind of I mean, there was a lot of data that was just thrown out there in lists, and I did read over it a couple of times. Sometimes it's a lot easier if somebody just puts it together. Can you share your screen, Christine, and look at that? And again, this is something that please send us, everybody, a copy of. Can you do that?
I can send you a PDF. It says host disabled participant screen sharing. So I think you need to let me, Chris. You're muted, Chris, if you're saying something.
Sorry. I don't know if I think Laureen set these up. Let me see. Let me see if I can change it though. Did that do anything, Christine?
Let me try again. Yes,
Oh, okay, good.
you have the power.
Okay, now this is all, Christine, clarify, this is all based on the numbers from the document, that report that Chris Ursu before.
Yeah, okay, so we can get to that if you want. Yeah, maybe this is all the stuff that Chris gave, and then just for my own brain, I wanted to know, what does this look like to a homeowner? So these are made up numbers. You can put any assessed value, any purchase price you want in here. But do you want to just roll through kind of the stuff that Chris gave us?
Well,
or whatever order? I didn't use everything that Chris gave us. I mean, I looked at like various components of it. And like I said, there's a few questions out there.
well, walk us through it, how you think it works. How's it going to make it clearest for us?
All right. Okay, so what I would say is we have what I'm calling a legacy homesteader, right? So that's a person that's been in their home for decades. The other type of property owner is what I'm calling a new homestead owner. So that's, the new people that are moving into town, and we know the prices are, going up on average. And then there's a non-homestead or a commercial property. So if you take a typical, we'll say this, $130,000 assessed home, the current homestead exemption that's been on the books for, I don't even know how long, Chris. I know it's like almost $700,000, and you divide that by the number of homestead properties, which Chris told us is 2,412.
Yeah.
I have that over here. So I guess this amount can change every year depending on how many people have declared a homestead. And I saw you ask, Molly, about does everybody, I don't know if you said take advantage of the homestead, but I actually just talked to my neighbor 2 days ago. He's relatively new to the community, and he was saying, oh no, I don't qualify for the homestead. And I was thinking, I know you do because you live here, it's your primary residence. So he was a little confused. So there's probably people that are in homestead properties that aren't taking advantage of it, just haven't filed. I believe it's just a March 1st deadline with the county. So I'm sure there are people that aren't taking advantage, and perhaps there's people that maybe still have a homestead and it's changed and not a primary residence, but neither here nor there. But that's kind of how the homestead works. So this is what every homeowner gets. So the person that's in a house that's assessed for 130, the person that bought a house for 250,000, everybody gets this $11,342 removed.
Can I clarify one thing?
Yeah.
So if more people do file, that
Uh-huh.
same money is distributed. So what ends up happening is that the exemption for each homestead goes down. So it's
Yeah,
not
Yeah.
like, some
Yeah.
more,
right.
so.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. I thought I said that. I know it's 697,000. It hasn't changed in years and years and years. So this number could vary.
So can I ask if someone is eligible for the homestead exemption and doesn't take it, then the act that, or the referendum, whatever it is that we're planning to put in place, that would mean that they would still pay the full property taxes and also pay an income tax or the personal income tax. So those people would kind of not receive a benefit. Is that what would happen?
Yes. Yes, essentially.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
I wonder how many there are that don't claim the homestead exclusion. County does that, and it seems to be almost automatic.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it was just, honestly, maybe it was the one bad luck of the person that I spoke with, but
Yeah.
he was surprised. I think sometimes, they call it a homestead farmstead exemption.
Yes.
So honestly, I think he said something about, I don't qualify for a farmstead, but I guess we could just put a little education out there. But I had just spoken with him just after March 1st. So the amount that the county reduces is 18,000. So he was missing out on the 18,000 from his county taxes, as well as this $11,000 on Northgate.
So
I can say from my realtor experience that it's not an automatic thing, and there is a mailing after you close on your property that invites you, if you will, to apply for it. But my recollection of the letter that they send you, it's very sort of vague. There's no real explanation of what it really is. The word farmstead is in there, so you're like, I tell you why I don't understand. I had to walk many of my clients through it, and then you can only apply for it around March-ish,
Yes.
and after that you have to wait until the following year, which many people would forget. So that was my experience.
Yeah. We actually looked it up together, and because I said, oh, hurry up. And it was a March 1st deadline. So he had just missed it, like you said.
So just to clarify, there is a cap on the dollar amount that is allowed for all of the homesteads within Bellevue. Is that correct?
In Northgate, yes.
It's been this number for many, many years. I think Chris might have included, I don't know if you included a trend, but it's been 697. I don't know any other number, but
Very close to that every year.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Basically, everybody gets their tax bill. All the homestead people get their tax bills reduced by that $200 and some, almost $300 less in taxes to Northgate.
yeah.
That's entirely funded by the state through the gambling funds.
So this is current state. And I have to just to rewind a little bit. So when this came up, we talked about, the median assessed value of, and this is the median assessed value of a homestead, right, Chris?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, honestly, to me, this tells me that, this is the assessments are so outdated. I guess, Justin, you could probably confirm that you'd be hard pressed to find a lot of housing stock and new housing stock in Bellevue for 93.7.
You'd be surprised.
Okay.
There are some
I mean,
things
as far as a median, though, I mean, I guess this.
Oh, a median, yeah, that has definitely changed. But there are some things out there that, I mean, take my house for instance. It sold in 2011 for $27,000, and then I bought it for $134,000 in 2015. So there are still properties out there in the condition that mine was in, that are most likely the outliers pulling that down. But I would guess that as of late, it's probably gone up a little bit higher than that.
Another point to make is that the assessed value isn't exactly the same as the market value. The assessed value is, I believe it's approximately 90% of the market value
Right.
on average. So that's something to keep in mind as well.
I would have assumed it was like a fraction of that, but
It's supposed to be, according to the county's rules, it's supposed to be market value. But when was the last time there was a reassessment? Probably a decade ago or something.
I looked it up and I thought it was 2013, or does anybody know
That
for
sounds
sure?
about right.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing to consider too is that every time you buy a property here, you're essentially spot reassessed. You know,
Yes.
so in many ways, the assessed value does somewhat reflect the market value.
Oh, that's true too.
Particularly in the Northgate School District, and probably all school districts do this. They find a property, like you take my house, I bought it 30 years ago, the $50,000. If I sell it tomorrow for 200,000, which is what my neighbors went for across the street, Northgate's going to look at that and more than likely approach the county to have the property's market value increase substantially and to get the tax revenue on it. I think there's some percentage that Northgate looks at. Chris, is it like 10 or 20%?
Yes. If you purchase a property a certain percentage beyond what it's assessed at, then an appeal is automatically filed by Andrews and Price.
Yeah.
And they try to get the assessment to be approximately 90% of what the purchase price was.
Okay.
All right, so, and so this is the current millage where we're sitting right now, 25.5, and the district hasn't been voted on, but they're proposing a 3.2% increase. I just wanted to demonstrate for myself and just for you guys too. So if you're sitting in a house that's, you know, assessed at 130 and your taxes, the millage goes up 3.2%, it's going to cost you about $97 more a year. If you're sitting in this more expensive home, it'll cost you $195. But
Now, when you have, Christine, when you have property tax due on a $130,000 home, that the $3,000 is what's due after counting in the exclusion and all of that?
Yeah, so you start with the 130. Everybody that's declared a homestead on our current gaming revenue gets this. So your taxable, Northgate taxable balance is 118, which I just want, this is, if you take that divided by 1,000, that's how many mills it is. So for every 1,000, it's $26. So your tax bill would be $3,123. So it would go up $97.
Okay.
If the millage went up. This is the thing that I was hoping when this whole thing started, I was hoping to address this, which like you just said, Connie, you bought your house for 50.
Mm-hmm.
You'd hope to get 200 for it. You see, that's what's happening in your neighborhood. But this is what's, I think, you know, the inequity I was hoping to get rid of, you know, fairly. So, you know, so your neighbor is sitting there paying, you know, $6,300 versus your $3,100, you know, paying $3,000 more a year because you're a legacy homeowner who hasn't been reassessed. And that's, you know, to me, that's really significant money. It doesn't seem, you know, it certainly doesn't seem equitable. And I think because, you know, our assessed value, median assessed value is so low, and we rightly say to a person at that level, it's only $97, but to a person that's paid this price, they're already paying $6,300, and they're going to go up $195 if we increase. And then a non-homestead or a commercial property obviously does not qualify for the homestead, and you can see what they would be paying would be $6,500 a year, which is just the difference in what this credit would get any homeowner.
Right.
So that just helps me wrap my head around what's happening currently. Are you guys good with that? Do you want me to just show what happens whenever we apply the full exemption that we're allowed up to?
I think that'd be good, please.
So what we're calling proposed. So this 35,508, that's all this represents is what amount is left over that we could possibly exempt, which is half of the median assessed value. So we've already taken the 11, and here's another 5. So if you exempt another $35,000 from the same properties, you would save $636. So that's really, to me, what we're talking about is if you extended this to every homeowner, regardless of assessment or purchase price, this could be $2.4 million. It's going to be $636 because,
That's
everybody,
in addition to
in addition to the
the
289.
300 we're already getting. Okay.
Yeah. So then the total homestead savings is $934. So this is the amount we're talking about. And then I think, do you agree, Chris?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So then if you say, so if every homestead was given $636 per year reduction, how much less real estate revenue would we get? And the lost real estate revenue would be $2.2 million. So this is where the discussion is. So what do you have to do to make up $2.2 million as far as the EIT goes? And I don't know, I really wanted, I'd asked you, Chris, about the earned income, the total earnings, but to me, it's probably going to be, you would have to raise it by about 0.6 to get back this $2.1 million. So
Christine, when you calculated that number, did you calculate that looking at the way that I had done it, or was that something you did independently?
well, that was the question that I had as far as what is the total earned income that we could tax? Because I guess that's what I wanted to know. So do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
so
I do, and I actually have asked for that information. I haven't gotten it yet,
okay.
but I will send it to you.
I actually just hit it because I'm not sure that this is correct. So if you just take, 40,000, which you said is the average earnings per person, times the number of resident earners, that's what I was using, but I'm not sure that's right. So I think it's in the ballpark probably.
Mhm.
I think it has to be in the ballpark. So the required increase to make up this is about a 0.6%. So we would, if we just said, yeah, let's do it, you would have to increase this 0.5 that we currently pay up to 1.08 for every earner. And what does that mean? It means the average earner making 40,000 would have to pay another $235. They're already paying 202. So I believe that's what we're talking about. But like I said, Chris, this was, so this median individual earned income, I don't know whether I think that's high or low, but whenever this is something that you had shared, and this says this is the median household income for Northgate, which I've seen this number similar to this number before. So 40 seems kind of high if this is the household, but maybe our households are very small because we're counting, condominiums and things like that. So this is the number that I referenced coming from, this was from this, like, it was called a local effort capacity, and it included some additional metrics.
Okay, yeah, that was probably included in the, maybe one of the stimulus funding.
Yeah, it was included in that basic education, special education funding that you had sent out.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was a lot of other information in here, but one of these was metrics about the number of households and things like that. So we can continue to fine tune that. But if this number holds true, that's what we're talking about is, you know, every person would have to pay another $235 to make up for that loss. The other thing that I just wanted to mention is that if you think about, so if every household gets $636, I mean, at some point, if your household income, you know, exceeds the average, you could end up, you know, losing that credit because obviously you're going to be paying more in an earned income tax.
So if you look now at, assuming that our median earner is a median homeowner, they're going to be getting another $600 off their property taxes,
Mm-hmm.
but only paying $200 more for an income taxes.
Correct.
So tax bill is going to be even lower rather than, I thought it would be a break even type of thing, but it could be even lower.
Well, the reason it isn't break even is that you have more earners than you do homeowners.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So you're splitting it up across more people.
Yeah.
Well, right. So like, for example, in my household, it would really just be a difference of $200 because there are 2 earners in my household. So we're each going to pay an additional $470, you know, we're going to pay $470 more in our income tax, which we budget differently than how we budget our property tax. So, you know, if I'm saying like, okay, I have a mortgage and, you know, maybe Connie, maybe you don't have a mortgage, so your perspective on this is a little different, but just because you've owned your home for so long, but my property tax is rolled into that mortgage payment. So I already
Right.
have that basically set as a budget item that's coming out of a separate account than my spendable income. So you're talking about impacting people in a different way by taxing their income versus their property, I think.
Right. Though, maybe look at how much right now on earned income tax, it's going to be different for Bellevue and Avalon. And I think they take it out as a whole. Avalon's going to be 1%, which is 0.5% for the school district and 0.5% for the borough. Bellevue has 0.5% for the school district, but a 1% for the borough. So how much are they deducting from every paycheck? I'm not asking you this in particular, just saying, consider it this way. How much more would be taken out of a typical paycheck every week, every 2 weeks, whenever it?
Right, because that's more of an everyday, like what we're talking about is an everyday impact versus, you know, something that you don't see as much, I guess, or is
Yeah.
not as front of mind.
But what I'm saying is that $235 is what, like $4 a week
Yeah.
over the course of a year?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And this is automatic too. I don't think there's any, I mean, I remember back in the day, you would do like, I don't know, it was PAMs, you would do like quarterly, your own quarterly earned income tax. I believe it's the law now that it's just automatic.
Employers, yeah, they're required to deduct it and send it in.
Right. I guess self-employed, you would still do it yourself, but yeah, so you're right about that. But there's definitely some, you know, estimates in here and what would it be for a family. The other thing that I was thinking about was, you know, just what does, and Jody, I guess this is probably, like when I think about the borough, And I think the borough has never increased. It's always been 1%. And I was talking to Connie, and I guess that's the maximum we're allowed, Connie, but
No, Bellevue's home rule charter.
home rule.
When the home rule charter was adopted back in the early to mid 70s, that's where the earned income tax was set at 1%. At any time, Bellevue could do whatever they want to with that earned income tax. They have not done it in 50 years, but they could.
Yeah. So to your point about, they haven't had to increase it. So that just, I mean, things don't get cheaper, right? So that just tells me that the wages are growing, and then the contributions to the borough are growing. And then this is just a snippet of our earned income tax remissions to Northgate over these years. So you can see every year our earned income tax increases by 5%.
Yeah.
So
What is the what's the similar increase in property values?
Oh, glad you asked. So yeah, property value. Well, no, and so in real estate taxes.
Real estate revenue, yeah.
Yeah, so this is the millage. So there was no change in millage for 4 years, and it went up 0.6, 0.2, 1.3. Now this year there was a millage increase, and then I think you said, Chris, you had this highlighted that you were going to check. So these discounts they don't look correct. I don't know if they're like in a different bucket, but you said you were going to check. They definitely don't look. They look too low.
We had a new auditor this past year, and she did things a little differently. So I'm going to talk with her to see, how she came up with that audited figure.
Yeah.
Can you
Well,
explain what that means, those discounts? As I was reading that, I was a little unclear what exactly that number represents.
That's for if you pay your taxes in advance.
Like by August 31st, you get
Yes.
2% or something.
And if you have a mortgage, they're taking that from your escrow in order to pay it during the discount period.
Got it. Okay. I just wasn't clear what that was for.
And then penalties paying late, right, Chris?
That's right. That's a 10% penalty after October 31st.
Okay. And do you know, are there legal fees involved in that? By the time you get to the penalty, have we engaged the solicitor to start to send letters, or who's following up on that? Like, I'm thinking, what is the cost?
There are reasonable attorney's fees that can be charged by the delinquent collector, which is Andrews and Price, after December 31st. I'm not exactly sure what those fees are, but they are charged to the taxpayer.
Yeah,
All right.
doesn't pay for that.
Yeah, so just getting back to this. So this year it went up by 5%, which I think is obviously because the millage was increased and perhaps the discounts might not be correct. But then if you go back to, between 1920, 2021, I guess we have this, Chris, because we're already in 2021, the real estate tax cycle is complete, basically.
Yes.
So it only went up 1%. So clearly we're talking about a huge volume of dollars here. But that's why, like I said, you can see, and of course anything can happen. That's why I think one of the things was like, is it riskier? Yes, if everyone lost their job, they probably wouldn't, they wouldn't be remitting taxes. But I also think, if everyone lost their job, we would have trouble collecting real estate taxes as well. But I thought this was interesting to show that it's always growing, this earned income. And when we don't raise the millage, the property tax remittances are relatively flat.
Yeah.
Not completely, but as a percentage. So yeah, those were just a couple of the things that I pulled together just to help me think about it. But homestead versus this. So
Yeah. Does anybody else on the commission have any questions about this or impressions?
Question, and forgive me because like a lot of this is maybe terminology that you all are used to, but I'm not, especially as a renter. But Christine, you talked about the savings that people in homesteads would receive, and then the $2.2 million that we would have to make up as a district if we weren't, and we would have to make that up through increasing the earned income tax. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. And so it sounds like people in homestead get a benefit if we raise the homestead exemption, but it sounds also like renters only have to pay more earned income tax with no benefit. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely costs the renters more. This is not available to them. I guess the demographic that would certainly benefit would be someone that is, in a home but has a low earned income. So a senior or another lower income person. Like I said, just by the time a household makes around $110,000, the $636 disappears because you're charging more, because you're levying a higher tax on it.
But what you have to look at, and one of the things that we're here to consider is right now, renters arguably aren't paying anything. I mean, some people can say that through their rents, they're paying the property taxes on commercial properties, on rental units. And that may be true to some extent, but now you can have, a family in a rented home, an apartment, making a whole lot of money and essentially making minimal contribution to the education of the children. That's
do we have data how much money renters are making to make an assessment like that, Connie?
we don't. That I've seen so far. I'm
Okay.
looking into it, but
I doubt, Sabrina, that, I mean, you could tell me, Chris, if you think, do you really think, is it possible Keystone Collections has earned income by it would have to be by dwelling type, right?
Yeah, I could ask them if
I
you'd
think
like.
that would be
Yeah.
that would be an important piece of data to have as we assess, the effects on renters who, again, make up the over half, of the population here. I want to see that type of stuff, because it's kind of like I just want to take in more information prior to coming with an assessment.
Yeah, and just to jump on that, I just want to question the premise. Renters aren't paying their fair share. What would we be basing that, or you said that renters don't contribute? These are kind of judgment calls on what a contribution would be and what fairness is. And it doesn't take into account any other kind of contribution a community member could make besides taxes. Which
that's kind of why they call this the Tax Study Commission, because that's what we're looking at. And they may be lovely people and they may be great contributors to our society, but that's not what we're looking at.
okay, well then,
Person
okay,
to person
I see.
evaluate that. And
Well,
again, I'm not saying it's a premise. It's certainly not a premise. It's something that has been in the historical discussion of property versus earned income tax. They're
okay.
concerned that the renters were not contributing to the same extent.
Do we know how many?
The renters don't have the same wealth and assets also. So Sabrina, just one moment. Before I lose my thought. So the taxes are relatively flat compared to the wages in terms of the way that they increase. But I think we've already established that the way that the taxes are assessed is really inequitable and unfair and almost random depending on when you purchased your house. But the market value of the homes is not flat. So the property owner does gain a wealth asset so I don't know how that value would be put into that they're already kind of increasing the value of a house and paying its not current assessment, which is a much different way of paying taxes than just your paycheck. So I just would like us to think about that and maybe think about how we would measure those kinds of differences.
Sorry. I mean, I'm not sorry. Sorry. I'm not sorry. I say that all the time. Just know that I'm not. And Connie, this isn't to necessarily jump all over what you said, but as the renter, as somebody who is going to be representing on this commission, renters in both boroughs of the district, I think we just need to tread lightly on how we talk about what contributions we're making as renters, because it seems like this is exactly what we're talking about when we're talking about earned income tax coming up, especially since it doesn't matter clearly if you're in a homestead, if you're renting, or even if you, I mean, it just doesn't seem like it is like everybody is involved in this process. Also, we have to consider too that contributions. I'm pretty sure there's like students in the Northgate that attend the Northgate School District who live in a rental home too. That's a contribution within itself. So unfortunately, I am not at the stage where I can own a home, but I do think that this is important to me, and I do think that I contribute to this. So I just want to make sure that the conversation is fair and that, clearly renters are a value, because that was, one of the main points of diversifying this commission. And so I don't want to exclude renters just because we might not be paying the same amount. It is what
Oh,
it is.
absolutely not. It's a weighing process. I mean, renters in this town, like you said, they make a majority of the residents. They're going to contribute both at the borough level and the school district level in terms of the earned income tax. The issue is going to come down to, should they pay more or should homeowners pay more? And right now, all you've got is every time there's a tax increase, it's falling on the property owners. And that may be a good thing, it may be a bad thing. We can decide that as we move along. But in terms of contribution, again, let's always return to what our focus is, and that is providing the necessary funding for the Northgate School District and how that should be spaced out among all the different people.
I guess I'll just say honestly, to everyone's point, I hear what everybody is saying. What I've seen when you go back and look at some of the property values, we have, I guess, landlords that have owned properties for decades and decades that are, very underassessed. So they're probably sitting at this kind of number. And when we raise the taxes, it doesn't impact them that much, but they're able to command such higher rents from people. So in that way, I believe that the renters are absolutely paying the property taxes, through their rent. But it just never gets away from this inequity that I at least wanted to see what we could do. Like, I feel like the county has really hamstrung us. We'll never have, a Walmart in this community or any kind of giant tax, we just won't have that. And as the costs continue to rise, we're putting it on, we're putting on those people that pay in the form of millage. But I see it completely. That's why I think it's very difficult. And the fact that we, are not able to do a progressive rate or, do something as a percentage, it just doesn't seem fair that, the same homeowner would get these same amounts. And then I do believe that landlords do pass it on to the people that rent from them. But
I think we need a lot more information, if we can get it, on the demographics of renters in the Northgate School District. And again, I'm not sure that that's going to be something that Keystone has. But if they do have that kind of a breakdown, Chris, just ask, could you ask them?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. It's not any problem at all to ask.
Yeah.
Are you just asking me to find out what the average income is of renters, or did you want other information also?
Can we get totals?
Total number of renters?
No, total well, that would be good too. But actually, I think the census data has that.
I was just going to suggest the census might be the way to find out like how many people are renting, number of people in their home, like what age children are. So like, you know, you can kind of find out like how many people are earning in each of these rental homes.
I've actually looked at that and I will send you all the document. Bellevue's home ownership rate is about 46%, 45, 46%.
Okay.
So it's low. With other areas that I've looked at, you know, they're talking 70, 80%.
Mm-hmm.
What year is your data from, Connie?
The most recent census,
2015?
no, 2020, there was a census.
Okay, I heard Sabrina say last week that we are 65% renters. And
Yeah,
I-
that the
Okay.
data does not
51%
support that.
now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's more like 55% now.
So if you do that, we're saying there's 5,300, if this is 45% homestead, or no, that's the opposite, homestead, yeah, no, that's right, we're only 45% homesteaders, right? So 5,360 is the total number of properties. And we would want to know,
A little bit low, isn't it? 5,300 properties, that's low.
Are we saying that many people aren't using the homestead exemption who may be eligible?
No, we're saying that those
No.
are the properties that aren't homesteads.
I mean, it was just a simple math thing that I did, but that might not be right. Maybe Chris, you could, so we want to know maybe the total number of properties, like all in individual properties.
Okay.
We would like to know the breakout of earners between homesteaders and renters, if that's possible, and the amounts as well. So the count and the average income. I'd be surprised if they have that, but I guess that would help.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see what we can get. I think we're going to possibly just have to make some careful assumptions at some point.
I can ask though, and I'll get you as much as I can.
Okay. Does anybody have any more questions or comments on this presentation and the data that Chris supplied to us earlier?
Hey, Christine, did you email these spreadsheets, or if not, could you please?
It's a long story. I can PDF them to you, but yeah, I can send them to you. And I was actually hoping to get the answer on this whenever you do know, Chris. If this is the median household income. I'd really like to know that.
Christine, for right now, yeah, give us the graphs, the calculations that you have here, and the impact of the increased homestead exclusion and the increased earned income tax.
Sure.
And also, Chris Ursu,
Yes.
is the conclusion that you came to when I know you've looked at this, is that the earned income tax would have to be increased by, what did you say, like 0.8,
0.6 is what I was coming up with.
0.6?
That's,
Is that what you came
yeah,
to?
well, that's kind of why I asked whether this was my analysis, because that is extremely close to what I came up with, but maybe I guess that's good. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it
about what I
works.
got. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So
So-
do we,
Go ahead, Molly.
sorry, do we now present questions that we have based on this data and questions that we should research or figure out?
Yes, that would be excellent.
In terms of wages growing, and we can see that they clearly go up year by year. Do we have any current data, and would it matter that we're in the midst of a global pandemic and what's been called an economic recovery and kind of even a shifting work landscape that hasn't settled down or stabilized yet? And so do we have to
Molly,
do
if-
any thinking
If you
on
look
that?
at the earned income data that Chris provided us, the receipts from each year, you're going to see that they're pretty steady. And if that had to do with the federal government making payments or unemployment, whatever it was, but you're going to see over the years that our income tax revenue at the school district level really has gone up, if anything, including for the past year.
Okay, so your answer would be that the global pandemic situation to the economy isn't applicable to think about before we would make a recommendation on earned income tax.
No, I'm just saying that if you look at the data and don't guess what it might do, which is what everybody was trying to do a year ago, they're thinking, oh, we're really going to lose tax revenue. The boroughs thought that. The school districts certainly thought that. But as Chris will tell you, there was a slight decrease in earned income tax revenue for the past year, but it wasn't nearly what they expected.
That's correct.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, I am too.
Yeah, really,
Yeah, I
very
mean,
surprised.
from what PASBO, the School Business Officials Organization, was telling us, we were expecting a huge decline, but it just didn't pan out.
Yeah.
Then another issue would be, since this is about tax relief, and there is some relief in the form of the homestead exclusion, which we don't have any idea how many people who are eligible aren't using it. If, for instance, I was to decide that I wanted to advocate for this and look into it, assemble a team, go door to door, make people aware and help them and help everybody who could get it, then that would potentially change all of these numbers, because there would be a lot more people involved and we'd have to make up for that with the earned income tax. Is that correct?
Let me think about that. I think that, you have a pot of money that you're splitting up among the approved homesteads. So if you have more approved homesteads, that just means that each homestead gets less. So,
Okay.
Exactly. Northgate still gets the same amount of money.
right.
So for people who care about tax relief, would that not be a fantastic advocacy to work on?
Well, it would definitely help more people to take advantage of it and benefit from it, but it would reduce the benefit to each approved homestead by whatever amount would be appropriate.
So it would be more fair and equitable.
True, true.
Now, Chris, let me just check what you're saying. So that first exemption of 11,000, that pot of money, that's $697,000, that's not going to change until it changes. But every new homestead would be entitled to another 35,000. So if we found a bunch of people that hadn't taken advantage, I do believe that there's no limit on that. The district would lose more revenue for every homesteader. Now, I know there's a provision in here that says you can kind of right size, because it's probably really difficult to figure out the first year. Doesn't it allow us to say, oh man, that didn't go exactly as we planned? And I'm not sure that that's true. I think that every new homesteader would be entitled to another $35,000 is my thinking.
That's a good point. Yeah, the gaming revenues remain the same, and that money, that's going to be split up among the number of approved homesteads. But for the purposes of the commission's purposes, if you do recommend that each homestead should get an additional $35,000 excluded, then yes, as the number of approved homesteads goes up, I believe that that would reduce the earned income tax, or I'm sorry, property tax revenues of the district as more homesteads came about, approved homesteads.
Hey, Christine, on your spreadsheet, do you have itemized the gaming revenue exemption separately from the other?
Yeah,
Yes, it's the 11,000.
So,
Yeah.
so this 11, go,
sorry, I was just gonna say, that's how you get there. It's always $697,000, and it's always divided by however many new homesteads. So if for some reason we identified 600 more people, you know what I mean? Like, it's just gonna go down.
No, it changes a little bit, not much. A few.
Right.
so my question
It can
is, though,
change.
from this homestead exemption that you have current, this $11,000, what portion of that is this gaming revenue that does not change?
All of it.
All of it.
All of it.
Mhm. Yeah, that's why this is current. It can change slightly, you know, based on these two items. This I haven't seen change in 5 or 6 years, and Chris kind of confirmed that that's true.
Mhm.
It's relatively flat.
Yeah.
So I'm really confused then. What is the amount that what's the dollar figure that's going to change should you reduce the amount of, how are you getting to this $35,000 number?
That is the difference between, we're allowed to eliminate 50% of the assessed median value property, which is what, the 46,850.
Mhm.
So the state has already used up
11.
of that or something.
So there's 35 left for a grand total of 46,850.
Yeah. The state won't let us, the state legislature right now will not let us deduct or exclude any more than that 50% of the median assessed value. And all that's left after we take out the state's 1130,342 is the 35,508.
So are we already exempting more than the gaming revenue currently at this stage?
No,
All right.
we have no authority to exclude more than that at this time. No legal authority.
Okay.
Yeah, we're stuck with the 50%. I really wanted to just see what 100% would look like. Like, I just feel like that would be just such an interest. Could you imagine if, just depending how it would work out, of course, and now we know we can't do a progressive rate, if we could say that there are no school property taxes for people in, you know, that want to buy a home here. We probably make the prices go through the roof, but that would be a pretty cool thing. I think that would, you know, if we could do it responsibly, but well, that's not available to us. So we're limited to the 50%.
Is there any way that we can get data on how much revenue a personal income tax as opposed to an earned income tax might produce? I'm not sure if anybody has those numbers. You know,
I said, if you got rid of all property taxes, which we wouldn't want to do, we wouldn't want to do that on commercial properties and rental properties. I'm not sure that this is right, but I just said, how would you replace all of this money? I don't know if I did this right, but yeah, I mean, I think that's why the city of Pittsburgh has closer to a 3 or 4% earned income tax, because their millage is really, their millage is really small.
exactly. And let's bring up something. I think I was operating under some information that nobody in the state had taken advantage of this homestead exclusion increase, and that may be true. I can tell you definitely from my research, and I will pass that on to everybody too. Nobody in Allegheny County is doing it. Everybody's at the 0.5%. However, a substantial portion of the rest of the state, the school districts do have a higher than 0.5% earned income tax. And Chris, I was wondering, I've just been kind of going through DCD documents on EIT rates for school districts, but I wonder if through PASBO, there would be a way of you finding out what these other school districts are doing, because it's close. Once you get out of Allegheny County, they all start charging EIT rates that are higher than 0.5%.
Yeah, PASBO definitely could help with that.
Yeah, if
You
they,
can ask.
again,
Some of us don't know what PASBO is.
I'm sorry, it's a Pennsylvania Association of School Business Officials.
Yeah,
Thank you.
every school district, there's 500 and some school districts in Pennsylvania. They each have a business person like Chris, and they probably have a lot of information on what this has, how the other areas got to their higher 0.5. I don't know. I thought the 0.5 was the state limit. Do you know, Chris? If
Yeah, that's actually, this is the first I've heard about that, Connie, so I'll have to look into it.
okay, yeah, let's look at that, because there are a lot of them, and I can send you. I guess that there's 500 school districts, but they're out. Once you get outside Allegheny County, a whole lot of people are increasing their EITs.
Okay.
They're going up to, I mean, some of them are like 0.8, 0.7, somewhere in there, but a lot of them are over 1% just
Really?
for the school district.
Okay.
So I think that's some of the data that I've got, and whatever Chris can get that we'll look at next time, plus whatever we can do with as much as we can get in the way of demographics for renters would probably help us.
Mhm.
Anybody else, any questions or suggestions on what we need to know?
I guess I just want to clarify that tonight I've heard you, Connie, say that renters don't contribute and also don't contribute their fair share. And Christine, did you just suggest it would be like fun or something to look at if property owners paid 0 taxes? Because both of those statements are really extreme and outrageous and frankly kind of repugnant. And I don't want to be wasting all of our time and the community's time on just a kind of like classist anti-property tax kind of rant situation. I mean, is this serious or not? 100% reduction in property taxes, is that the ultimate goal? Via dumping things onto renters without having any kind of respectful conversation about their identities and lives and their humanity.
Yeah,
Molly, we
yeah,
have
absolutely
said
not, Molly. So
repeatedly that is a theory that has entered the historical discussion about shifting tax burdens. But I have also said repeatedly that we don't know yet. We need to get that data through Keystone, however, that we can make some judgment about the fiscal contributions to the tax structure of renters. There is absolutely nothing being said in this commission at any time in any way that looks at anything other than property taxes and earned income taxes. To claim that somebody here made a statement that renters make no contribution to our society is frankly insane.
Well, if they don't contribute to paying for the school district, which is something that that is beloved to many of us, that we deeply value, not the fiscal aspect, but just the participation in our community. So, I mean, I think that, yeah, so I am suggesting it because I feel like that's what I heard. And I would caution you to be more careful in the way that you discuss these matters if that's not your true agenda or belief.
Molly, I've said it out loud 100 times. Let's get past it. Let's return to our focus. Chris,
Well,
something you wanna
I'll
say?
just say, well, I just want to say, you clearly weren't listening to me, Molly. I said the 50% reduction doesn't reduce the inequity that first brought this to my mind.
But you did want us to look at statistics. Do we have statistics somewhere? If it decreases by 100% or something? I mean, yeah, let's get back to the actual focus. Let's get back to the focus.
Right,
It doesn't seem like
right.
it's 100% elimination of taxes for property owners here.
No, but just like Justin had talked about the historical district tax incentives, which is a really neat idea.
Yeah,
Can't deal with that in this commission. We can't deal with a possible 100% elimination of income taxes.
right. Paired with a home ownership program. So please consider commenting that things are repugnant or trying to make them sound as such.
I'm not trying to make it sound as such. I will always
Oh, you
be
did.
honest about what I'm observing, always.
Okay, as long as you understand now.
I didn't say that I did or that I agreed.
Okay, let's get back on track. Does anybody have any questions about the data that's been presented or questions about what data we need moving forward?
Do we have any data about children's homes in the school district? So children that actually are going to the school, and what percentage of those children live in rental properties?
We definitely have data on, poverty levels and number of students who receive free and reduced lunches, a percentage of students. But the number that are living in rental properties, I'm not sure. I'd have to look into that.
Okay, that would be interesting to know
Okay,
if we could get it.
sure. I can look into it and see if I can get that.
You know, I mean, and just thinking about how households that participate in our school district might be affected by the change in this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just letting you know, Jody, because I guess this is part of the concern I have, that I see metrics on, enrollment in the district. So we can't know for sure which families are leaving, but the enrollment is at an all-time low. We've lost, 120 kids since the revenue and expense data that Chris sent, like 2018, 2019. So we're down to just 1,006 students in 3 buildings. So I feel, we are losing. I know Pennsylvania overall is, enrollment is slightly down, but it's not down as much as Northgate. I know we're trying to work really hard to change that.
But again, let's bring it back into
Right.
the
But it is,
Homestead
I mean, I'm just throwing that out.
EIP.
I'm just throwing it out as a consideration for, we don't know why families are maybe leaving. So.
But just in relation to within the scope of what we're talking about is how those families might be affected by a tax change. And those are people who directly utilize the school resources. So I just,
Exactly.
if we have data from the school that maybe we could use that to extrapolate in the larger community. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see what data on that is available. And I think that'll give us a good piece of research to work on at our next meeting. Would everybody be okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that just goes to like the point that Sabrina made earlier, that when we're talking about the homestead exemption, there's only a certain portion of the population of the school district that benefits from this tax structure. And so is it equitable, I think, is the question that I would be after.
Thank you, Jody, because that reminded me of something I
Yeah.
forgot about that I wanted to say. I know that there was discussion on, although we're considering raising the exemption to, and forgive me if I'm phrasing this wrong, y'all know what I mean. Although we're considering raising the exemption to 50% and we're talking about earned income or EIT versus PIT, there was discussion that there is no room to bring up alternative solutions Is that a thing, Chris, that we can't talk about? Like while we make a recommendation based on the, you know, the choices that we were presented, we don't have any room to talk about alternative situations that might be of a better benefit. And then also, if we go with one of these options or recommend one of these options, Molly, you brought up the senior tax relief thing. Can we add those things to make this a more robust discussion versus just picking a so-so?
Really, no. Did you read the response from the
I'm
solicitor?
just asking. Yes. It's like I just wanted to.
Yeah, it's pretty much no. It's governed by state law, and we have a very, very narrow focus.
Right. So once we make that recommendation, which is within the focused, we're not allowed to contribute more to the conversation. We're just bound to say, based on the two choices given, this is it. Because I understand that that's what we're called to do. But in terms of making this a conversation where we're not picking between an option that doesn't really even benefit the entire school district, there's no way to also recommend or after we give the recommendation at the end of this that while these are the options at hand, here are some other alternative solutions that we as the commission that was appointed would like to bring to your attention as maybe some other considerations.
Individuals can do that. It would be extremely inappropriate for this commission to do that in any way. We shouldn't even be talking about it.
You're definitely, you're definitely welcome to take part in public commentary at any board meeting, of course, if you'd like to discuss any of the, or at least bring any of those things to the board's attention.
I'm looking forward to receiving the additional data that has been requested. I think it'll give us all a much more detailed, comprehensive understanding of what our charges, what we're looking at, and how can we come to some equitable, fair decision. Either way, it's not going to be an easy choice. But unless we have the raw data to look at, then we can't really say much of anything except maybe speculate about this or that. That's at least just my opinion.
Thanks, Carolyn. Yeah, that's pretty much my opinion too.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also wanted to bring up, I don't know if this is the right time, but I have found an expert that I'm really excited to tell all of you about. I think they're on the call right now. They said they may have to leave early, but when I found this person who I'm about to tell you about, I was very narrow in the scope of things that they could talk about, and they happen to be someone who's done scholarly research specifically on Bellevue, and especially about its economic history, and even more specifically has knowledge about its specific demographics in terms of class and race makeup. So the person's name is Lee Carroll, and one of the things that's so exciting is she's a graduate of the Northgate High School, and she currently lives in Bloomfield, but after a bachelor's degree in neuroscience, she did a city planning master's at MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And while her larger thesis is about, it's about ways to strengthen community bonds across differences, especially differences of race and class. And in her research, she interviewed several students at the Northgate High School. But in the opening part of her discussion, she does lay out an economic history of Bellevue. And like I said, she has this, all of the demographic data that we've been discussing and seeing how we could get. And so I've asked her if she would come and speak to us about this, specifically in terms of the commission charge, which was very limited, in terms of population shifts, advantages and disadvantages, which was something that was there in the PowerPoint. That's what I've asked her to speak to, not very long at all, and really such a special expert on our local community that would be able to provide this information and also take questions from us. So I'm hoping that we can, I don't know if it would be a vote or a motion, we would agree to have her, invite her to speak with us at the next meeting.
What I'd like to do Molly, if possible, is if she can email us just a synopsis so we can see how it might fit into the discussion and at what point it might work.
Well, I just explained how it would fit into the discussion, and we've just been discussing this demographic information that we're looking for. So is it okay if I raise a motion and we put it to a vote? Because I would prefer not to kind of try to enclose or limit, but really be open about the kind of expertise that we have access to and have available.
So you're telling us that all the demographic data that we've been asking for tonight, you already have?
I don't have it. I'm telling you that I read about it in an early chapter of her master's thesis for MIT, a thesis in city planning, which is specifically about Bellevue and its demographics.
Can I, Molly, if that's the case, should I wait until, are you able to send me that data so I can see if I don't have to try to acquire some of this information?
That's what I was thinking. I mean, she was going to, her thesis is from 2017. So this is not data I have. I recently reread her thesis. She was talking about updating the information, and she was definitely interested in getting it. And as somebody with an MA, she has she has done this kind of research work before and seems to know how to get it.
Is
I mean,
there
there
any
would
way
certainly
that I
be
can,
no secret
are
around
you
it.
able to put me in touch with her so that I can see if she can provide the information that we are looking to get?
Absolutely. But in addition to the demographic information, Lee Carroll is an expert in how to analyze it with a kind of sense of really, she talks in her thesis about kind of vitalization and really positive things happening in the community. So she knows how to interpret this demographic data with a specific interest in equity.
Yeah, I
And
definitely
that seems quite specific and in tune with precisely what we're up to here, which is why I was so excited.
I'm not looking to analyze the data. I'm looking to provide it and then allow the commission to do the analysis. But if you feel that she can help with that analysis, that's up to the commission.
Yeah, that would be great. If somebody's already done the work, that would be very beneficial.
That's what I was thinking.
I would certainly be interested in hearing from her. Like I said, I just wanted to know where it would fit best in what we're doing.
I feel like, sort of the next step that we were looking at was actually looking for this demographic. Like when I'm looking at the notes that I've been taking, a lot of our questions center around what the demographics of Bellevue are. And so I feel like at our next meeting, like that, what she has to say might really fit in and be appropriate.
Okay. Well, Molly, could you arrange that then and see if that's possible for her to attend our next meeting? We'll kind of put her in right at the beginning for a period of time.
Yes, thank you. And in the meantime, Chris, I will introduce the two of you via email. She may have questions that you could help her with as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, everyone.
I think that's great. Chris, are you able to find, considering that sorry if I'm I feel like I'm lagging. Are you able to get information for Avalon so that we have a complete picture of the district? Since, unless, Molly, she also has data on areas that surround Bellevue too.
Her thesis is specifically about Bellevue, but it does concern the district, which has Avalon as well.
Okay.
That might be something she could speak to.
Perfect.
Okay. She may even be able to direct us to the information for Avalon.
Yeah.
She certainly has her sources, so that could be valuable. Okay, let's set that up for the next meeting.
Can we get her thesis? Can that be routed?
Oh, sorry. I will ask her. I will check with her first. I'm sure she will say yes. I've been trying to get everyone I meet to read this thesis ever since I read it back in 2017. I think it's really fantastic. And her expertise is city planning.
Okay, great. Anything else from anybody on the commission? Jody, did you want something or?
Nope, I was giving one of my kids a thumbs up.
Oh. All right, let's see. Is there anybody from the public that wishes to comment? We will give you 5 minutes if you have anything to say tonight. Just please introduce yourself, your name, your address. Hey, Christine, could you take your screen down?
I wanted to stop sharing a while ago and I don't have the control.
Yeah.
Let me
Can
see
you
if I
stop having me be presenter?
Let me see if I can do that.
Oh, wait. You know what? It went to my second screen. Is it gone?
Yeah,
Yes.
Sorry,
There we
it's
go.
on my second screen.
okay. Might be a little bit easier to see the anybody from the public have anything to say?
Yes, may I speak?
Absolutely.
Okay, hi. My name is Bill Bergman. I'm at 117 Beaver Avenue. So I just some observations from tonight about this whole plan as I'm hearing the conversation develop. As I understand it, this began as a question about disparities in taxes that are being paid by property owners, right? And the solution is to create a reduction for the property owners. As it turns out, that reduction is a flat reduction and doesn't in fact resolve the disparities between them. So the problem that was identified will continue, right? Beyond that, it would seem that the impact of the flat reduction for property owners would in fact not be equal because it's a flat reduction. So on the one hand, there is a problem because some people are paying a lot less than other people. But with a flat reduction, that equal amount of money is a much greater proportion of that amount. So people who have gone the longest amount of time since the last assessment, who are paying the least over that time, will in fact, who apparently have, I guess my perspective, not paying their fair share because they're paying less, will in fact be the greatest beneficiaries of this flat reduction. Now, beyond that, it's about reducing the costs through taxation for property owners and shifting it to a whole new group of people, which then again is going to be a flat rate, right? And flat rates are, in taxing, especially, flat rates are in practice regressive because they have the greatest impact on poorer people because they have much less money to play with, much less flexibility. So it turns out to be, in practice, a very regressive kind of tax. Now, I think the demographics will be revealing, but it doesn't change the basic principles here. And it doesn't solve, in the end, the fundamental problem that started this whole ball rolling, as I understand it. I am interested to see what the committee continues to come up with, but those are some initial observations.
Thanks, Bill. Anybody else have anything to comment on? Okay, can we get a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Second? Anybody?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of seeing us all next week?
Aye.
Aye.
Bye.
All right, good night, everybody. Thanks a lot.
Good
All
night.
right.
Good night.
Thanks.